Good evening and welcome everybody to the regular Gilbert council meeting of June 24th, 2025. It is now 6 p.m. Can I have a call meeting to order? Can I have a roll call, please?
Councilor Patchen.
Present.
Councilor Horn.
Here.
Mayor Overstar.
Here.
Councilor Skirvin.
Here.
Councilor Conley. Here.
All right, we have a quorum. Can I have a meeting? Now, could everybody rise and help me open with the pledge of allegiance? Pledge of allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk Frank, do we have any additions to the agenda?
We have 3 additions to the agenda. These are things that we've discussed previously, but that can be memorialized. There's an SEH contract for the community center that I would add under old business. Item A, there's an SEH contract for the manhole rehab that we have a $500,000 grant on. I will put that in item B under old business. And then there's the discussion of authorizing the fire department and council to discuss merger with Evelyn and Vale. I put that under new business under item H, the miscellaneous. The only other change that I have is on the check register, the bottom one from 618 to 620. That would move from 618 to 624 because we have some things that have to work it out. So it's inclusive of all those dates and just change that date.
Okay, here are the additions to the agenda. Does council wish to add these to the agenda?
So we'll get into the agenda.
I'll second. Moved by Councilor Vrtajnik, supported by Councilor Skirvin to add these 3 items to the agenda. Any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion carries. All right, consent agenda. Everything's in order, you're putting those, changing those to 618 now, is that?
Yes, correct.
Right, there's no recommendations in the library, there's some issues there, but hopefully they discuss that.
They had somebody got a pay increase and she wants to get that resolved and go retroactive. I don't really know where we fit in there. I do their time cards, but I think they work for the library commission. I don't even know that they're truly city employees, but it is what it is. And when she gets all her stuff prepared, we can bring it here for approval, but I don't know if it's our job to approve it.
No,
I don't think it is. So if she gets it all in order and has any changes, I'll give it to payroll and they'll take care of it.
that's it, that's what it is.
Very good.
All right, other than that, it's in order.
I guess I have a quick question about the library board meeting minutes. There's something under old business about unemployment withdrawal from the library account that the city took out. Is that just like something irrelevant?
City doesn't pay unemployment. This is a fabrication that she has somewhere. She also told me the city took her endowment money and took this unemployment money. The city never pays unemployment into the state unless somebody goes on unemployment and we directly pay it. So cities get that privilege, so it's been explained.
And that's only for the, well, commission, that's only under the director, only the librarian itself, one position there.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna move to, approve the consent agenda. I'll move.
I'll second.
Moved by Councilor Skirvin, supported by Councilor Horn to approve the consent agenda. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously. All right, public input, anybody in the audience that anything wants to discuss with council? Other than what's on the agenda? And I see two hands, one at a time. Please state your name and the button.
My name is Wendy Flanagan. I am the former campground manager for Sherwood Forest. And I was here, about 4 weeks ago, or 6 weeks ago. And I talked to you about this money that was due me. And, then I didn't have the paperwork, but I brought the paperwork in, so everyone had the paperwork. Since then, I have talked with, city clerk, and he informed me that the city attorney said, the way the contract is written out, you don't have to pay me. But being the fact that I was supposed to get $30,000 of that contract, and they cannot count January, February, March, and April. Because on the paper here, it shows that that was for the 2023 contract. So he can't count that money, that was part of the 30,000. So I'm asking the council to approve my getting that $4,000 that is still due me. You don't have to. I mean, it says, the attorney says they don't have to. I haven't gone to my attorney yet to see if that's true, but, basically, I'm asking for you to approve it because I spent 4 years working for this city. And I did a good job at the campground. I improved the income with all the things I brought in. And to have me have to fight for $4,000 is ridiculous. And I hope that you will concede that that money is due me. You promised me that $30,000 and I did not get it in full. So that's all I'm asking.
Okay, I'll start off if anybody wants to talk.
Sure. Reviewing the contract, the 2024 contract goes from November to November. And it was signed by her. Brian's looked at this. We have fulfilled all our obligations of that contract in that period of time. She was given $30,000. That's all I have to say about it. Any other thing to discuss beyond that, you need to discuss with Brian because he has reviewed this multiple times. And given the language that's there, we have fulfilled our part of the deal.
I tried to speak with Brian. I called him several times and left messages. He refused to return my call.
Okay, Wendy, clerk is telling me it's November, and we have paid, city of Gilbert has paid the $30,000, correct?
Correct.
So it has been paid. So you're saying you only got 26 because you're asking for 4 more.
Right. This paper shows that was done by Jill. And it shows the payment schedule starting in May of 2023 and going to March to April of 2024. That was part of the 2023 contract of $26,500. Okay? So granted, according to the contract, my contracts were running from May to April at all these years. I didn't look at that contract very good, I guess, because I thought I was gonna be under contract until April of this year. And I was misinformed, I guess, by my not paying attention. I just assumed it would take over. The contracts have always run the same. My payments have always run the same.
Wendy, no, I'm hearing the $30,000 has been paid.
But 4,000 of it was for 2023.
Well, details, I'm not gonna get into that.
All I can tell you, the terms of the contract say November to November. When they were done in October, I reviewed the contract, I made sure we paid the November payment because that was the final closeout period of the contract. That's the contract that was signed, I had nothing to do with the contract, that was done by Brian and Jill.
Well,
All I
then,
can do is
Since
follow the contract.
hold on. I don't know what you got, what you understand as the days, if the contract was November, and we paid $30,000, I don't see nothing more.
Okay, but,
So that's our attorney saying the same thing in the clerk, and
right,
my
I
position-
understand that,
My position would be, if you're not agree with that, then I don't know, we have to do something else, I guess. But I'm hearing it's been satisfied, okay?
right, the contract, the way it was written, I'm sure the attorney did not mean to mess it up, but I was still under contract in April of 2024 with the 2023 contract. So the two contracts
Well,
kind of bumped onto each other.
that can be here or there, but I'm hearing November to November was paid $30,000.
Okay,
That's all I can go by.
alright, so basically, I'm just out.
Well, no, we're not all, we gave the $30,000.
No, I got 26,000.
Well, that's what you understand, I know.
Did you look at them papers I gave you?
I'm hearing from my city clerk and it's,
Yes, I know.
I fully understand that the terms of the contract from one year to the other year changed. But the last contract that you signed, that's the one that we need to honor. And that's what the city attorney's telling me. So, given the fact that it was November to November, you were paid for that period of time. I understand what you're saying, but that's what the city attorney told me. And I have to defer to the contract. Whatever happened before I got here, I have no idea.
Okay, the contract
Reality is-
states that, but I'm asking the council to ignore that the contract was written the way it was, because basically I'm saying that $4,000 I'm short. And I'm asking the city because of all I've done for you guys.
I'm happy with the work that you did, and I'm happy that I've heard that they were paid you $30,000. I'm disappointed that you don't agree with that, so I don't know where to go from there.
Right.
So on your part, but on our part, I guess it's done, I mean. And you did a fine job, and I guess the city paid you what I'm hearing. And you're saying no, so I don't know where you wanna go with that, then I'm sorry, my point of view, anybody else got anything? Councilor Warren? Councilor Kirby?
I was on the hiring committee, I know your entire tenure, your entire history.
Yeah.
I've watched all of the check registers. You were paid for every single month that you worked here. The contract act ended October 31st. That's when the city is released of our liability to pay. We've honored our deal.
I'm sorry that you don't agree, Andy.
The papers don't agree.
I don't know, did you look at those?
I have read this 10 times and I did, because there's conflicting language, I sent to Brian. There's some conflicting language, but the last contract signed, so the only relevant contract is the last contract signed. And we've honored that contract.
And the contract says that I will get $30,000 per month, starting in May, June, July, August, September, and October. And $1,000 a month for November, December, January, February, March, April. Then fall after May. That's what the contract says. It listed in order.
You're gonna have to, if you have an attorney for a reason, you're gonna have to let Brian explain it to you. But I explained it to me and I am
Well,
of the mind that we've done.
for my point of view, I'll have Brian explain it to me, your situation, if he feels against that, I'll ask him to explain it, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Hi, my name's Chris Dowling. I'm after,
Can you hit the button, sir, on that? Thank you.
my name's Kurt Dowling,
Dowdy, Dowdy?
ING.
Okay.
And I'm here today, as, want a building permit for a garage. There's no planning and zoning committee. They stopped at City Hall, asked questions, they sent me to, the boss of the city workers. His name, who's it?
Sam.
Yeah, and Sam, I was asking him how far from the alley it got to be and stuff, and he didn't know. So, I drew a picture here today, showing some of the reliefs, and hopefully, you guys will approve my idea I got for the garage. So I can,
Well, so you're saying you didn't come to City Hall at all yet to make the
I did.
application?
I did, you got it right here. But I didn't turn it in yet, because
I haven't seen this one and I don't act on them until they're turned in and we review them and then I put them in front of the council, so.
We're gonna have to have,
well, I asked questions and no one could answer me anything, so that's why I'm here. And this is kinda, hopefully, because
this is
my
brand
boss,
new.
my foreman, 2 years ago, got a garage built. The way he got it approved is went to city council meeting, they approved it on the spot, he said.
That can happen if there are no irregularities.
Because, well, like what.
I apologize, Mr. Downing, but the normal procedure is for the application to come in, and at that point, I go over it with people here or anybody else that if there's a legal question, we'll ask the attorney. So we aren't prepared to act on something that we haven't seen yet. So if you give us the application, we'll be glad to process it. It may easily be approved. If you bring it in this week or early next week, I'll take a look at it in a preliminary fashion and tell you if there's anything that we're concerned about, and we'll go from there, but that's our
Well, just
process.
the garage, I mean, what kind of concerns would you have, the lease,
Setbacks, building heights, property line,
I got
power lines, there's a lot of potential concerns. Yeah, but we aren't prepared to act on that.
Sir,
We need to do a site visit and we need to check out your property, stuff like that.
Oh.
before we make a
So I
decision.
should say that somewhere when we got this application,
So how
because
much
it's
is,
so vague, I came here and asked questions, and I was sent it to the boss of the city workers. That's totally not right.
so once you give the application over to Mr. Skirvik here, and he'll look at, and the next council meeting, maybe we'll bring it up.
And if there are any issues that I see from a preliminary standpoint, I'll call you so that you don't get delayed and then have them come to multiple council meetings. So
Good.
give it to me, I'll take a look at it. If I have questions, Rudy's an expert,
What's your
the
address?
rest of them are.
101 Nevada Avenue, West,
So,
Ricky and Church's shop.
by the next meeting, the first meeting in July, we might bring it up at the council meeting, okay?
Aren't the setbacks posted online, so he would,
The setbacks are included in city ordinance.
yeah, so he'd be able to find them on the same website. So
Well,
if you ask, if you came
Not
down there and
everybody's
asked,
comfortable navigating that. Not everybody's comfortable
No.
navigating that.
well,
If you bring it in.
Probably know that, that'll
do
definitely.
we also have a copy of that here at the city hall that somebody could have, like in his space? Where he could have a copy of the setbacks,
Absolutely.
you know, because he said he couldn't find any information, well, that, it should be available, right? If they don't know how to get on the website, whatever, it should be available for them right there.
Sure. If I know that, I would have definitely looked.
And I don't know what the circumstance, somebody could have been out, the person that answers those questions could have been off that day, I don't know. But we'll take care of it, if you get it to me, I'll take care of it right away.
Okay. There's some other questions we got, as to fill this thing out, so maybe we can stop you after the meeting. Could we, look like the property, what it's called or whatever,
Survey?
not the survey, what the parcel numbers are or whatever. According to-
Description, legal
according to,
description.
Property taxes, it's called, it's supposed to be on this paper. And I wasn't sure what, I got it with me.
We can't do that right now at
I
the
know,
meeting, at the
I
meeting.
know, it's just, before I submit it, I wanna make sure I do it right, so I wanna ask somebody about some, couple quick questions before I leave.
Well, if you maybe hang on till after the meeting, it won't take much longer.
Right.
Okay?
Thank you. Did you have something, sir?
My name's John Skinner, I live on New York Avenue, and I'm here to discuss the blight ordinance. I've had problems with a neighbor whose yard has accumulated stuff all the time.
We're gonna bring that up tonight.
We have a hearing minute after we're done, we have a hearing.
Oh, you have a hearing
You might
now?
wanna stick around, you might wanna stick around for it.
Okay, I'll do that.
Just stick around, cause shut the button off. We got nothing else to talk about now either.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming, Don.
Yeah, you bet.
Anybody else? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. Reports by mayor and council, councilors, Councilor Vrtajnik,
Nothing at this time.
Councilor Horn.
I just have one thing. I noticed driving in today, the Minnesota flag on the outside of the building is starting to come apart. So Mike, if we can get a new one of those ordered, and then did you end up ordering to replace this Minnesota flag as well? I know Paul asked you a couple of council meetings ago.
I told Sam that we need to get new flags. I will remind him tomorrow and make sure that he gets it taken care of.
Perfect. That's all.
Councilor Scriven.
Two things, one to piggyback on Council Horns. Can we find out like when the flags are gonna be on Main Street for the 4th of July? I know that's one that we come up against real quick. So it needs to happen, and I don't wanna have our 50th anniversary nighttime parade and not have American flags up where they should be, so. The other one is just an observation of how it directly affects how we run these meetings. Would it be possible for us to have, when we have a workshop, to have the workshop information in our packet first? And so that we can go in order of our meeting and then hit our agenda as the second.
I could do them separately, I could do them first, what would you prefer?
It's just more helpful for us to kind of go like in the actual
Okay.
order. If you put the workshop first, I.
Sure.
Yeah.
Happy,
That would be helpful.
happy to make the transition, it's confusing to me too.
You good with that?
Yeah.
That's all I have.
Okay, Councilor Ponte.
Yeah, on the flags, you know. Like I said before, I think there should be a calendar where the flags are automatically put up. They shouldn't have to be wondering or asking when they're gonna be put up. It should be every year, they should be put up on this date. And, you know, and I know I've been told, and the flags are only up for a short time because we don't wanna wear them out. And I think our flags can be up, you know, to me, from Memorial Day right through Labor Day. If they wear out, we'll buy new ones. I think it just decorate this Main Street so much that I don't get that they're gonna wear out answer. That makes no sense to me, but that's what I've been told, so.
Flag is usually good for 6 months.
Yeah, well, even if we have to replace them every other year or whatever, that's so be it. You know, people will donate for flags, I'm sure.
Oftentimes in other communities where I've been, when you need new flags, the American Legion or the VFW usually helps with
Right.
that process. You know, I did go to Sam and told him earlier around Memorial Day, I said, you know, if you had a calendar, when you put up the Christmas lights and when you put up the flags, and then everybody could know what you're doing, and they'd be happy with that.
Yeah.
And he said, well, I guess we could do that, but it's never happened in the past. I think it's a great idea. And I told him, I said, it's nothing against personal. I said, I have a calendar through the League of Minnesota Cities that tells all the important dates when paperwork and stuff come in. I gave that to Marion and Hannah when I walked in here, and they're like, wow, you know, a calendar is a good idea. We can all do a better job of being organized. every single one of us, so, I think it's a great idea. And we can talk to them about it, I don't think it's a cooperative work effort, it's not punitive in any way, and I think it's a great idea.
So that brings up, how do we get this across to Sam? Maybe you're not able to get it across to him. Maybe the council has to actually have a meeting with him to, there's a lot of other issues besides the flags that I'd like to talk with him about that don't seem to be getting done. And these are things that haven't been done for years. And I don't see them ever being done in the future because of what we're hearing, the feedback we're getting. And I think it's just, something has to change. This town has to change in that way, where things have to get done. When we ask, the council asks for them to get done, we have to have a time schedule to get them done. Not, this year, this decade, or whatever. And that's what's happening. It can't continue. This town can't operate like that. There's no efficiency whatsoever. And how do we change it? I'm getting so frustrated.
I don't know why, Sam said he'd be willing to come to council meetings if he was asked to become, because he's never been asked.
Yeah, but we've had them at council meetings in the past and it made no difference whatsoever.
There's,
We need to meet with them, I guess, weekly.
I would suggest that we set a meeting and you tell me what you want and I'll meet with them, but this is getting into the personnel area, this isn't open for public discussion. I think that if you have a desire to see an annual calendar, when we fill potholes, when we plow snow, things like that, we should establish that as our way of how we're operating our business. And I don't think that there's anything preventing us from doing that. So I've already suggested that to him. And let me go back to him and we'll try to start working on it. Because I'm in agreement that more things will get done if we do a better job of planning and following our schedule.
So do we need a personnel meeting with him? In order to get these things started?
I think at the present time, an open discussion without a personalized meeting would be a better choice. But if it takes that in the future, that's a possibility. I would run that through the attorney and looking at their contract. I'm not gonna make any rash judgments of how we handle things. I don't wanna treat one employee different than other employees, but I don't think it's unreasonable. It is not in any way unreasonable for this council to have expectations and ask for a schedule. That's perfectly legal and perfectly acceptable, so.
And
If you wanna move in that direction, we should move in that
It's in the ordinances that he's supposed to provide one every week
report
to the council. It's in the ordinance. I think it might have even got into the charter.
It's in the charter.
It's in the charter that 500 people that were voted for that to get
weekly or monthly.
weekly.
So
Weekly schedule.
all of the main departments, I guess, of the city are required once a month to provide a report.
Once a week.
It's
It's once a week. It's once a week for the public works, so we know what the schedule's gonna be and where the jobs are. I know you worked on it, but.
a lot of times things come up that, take more priority.
That's true. I think we
There's
change
no priority list.
But I don't think that anybody on this council knows what the public works has done this last 3 weeks.
And I do agree, it is, it's one of those things, where we do have a right to ask that, adjusted for cost and revenue. The Public Works Department is the largest slice of the budget. And so, if we wanna be efficient, or at least, try to look at the costs that we're trying to contain, we have a right to know what's going on.
All I'm suggesting is that we use the carrot instead of the stick.
I know.
Start on that road.
I'm gonna go back in the 80s and 90s, I don't know when it stopped, but the mayor always had a 2-week list of what each employee did for the 40 hours for the 2 weeks, signed by the public works director before it went to payroll. And somewhere between 80s and 90s and the 2000s, something that when I got back, that went away. And I don't even see that anymore.
Those activities are put on their time cards where they spend their time, but you are not getting a report.
No, they're still going on. Still going on?
The cost center coding is going on.
Who sees them now?
I see them.
Okay, well, see, don't see, now somebody's in that, Mayor don't see it anymore, I don't get them.
Oh, that's
So,
what
but that's, you know, that's just where they spend their time. That's not a priority list of what
No, no, but
activities the council would like to see done. And that's not unreasonable for you to want the priority list. And if you have the top 5 things, you have a list of 10 items, the top 5 you focus on, those change. As they get done, you move one up. So that's not unreasonable. Let me work with him and see if we can get there.
And the reality is, we, all 5 of us get phone calls and inquiries from members of the public on insert topic of the day. And, it's helpful for us to be able to be part of the team if we know what's going on.
Again, things happen, breakdowns, we call it fires, okay? And it changes everything sometimes.
Everybody's flexible, but in the big picture, there are things that the council desires to have done, and if they don't get in the plan, they never get done. That's how it works, so I think it's a great idea.
This is, we're on Mr. Cochran's culture confidence business, so, sorry.
No, that's all I have. There's gotta be changes because, it's not working as far as I'm concerned. But it's done now. That's all I have.
Okay. Okay, I have a couple items here for, one, the kiddie parade now is back at their normal time, folks, 10:30 a.m. The band can make it here at 10:30, but not at 11 like we had thought. We're doing them a favor by coming later, but they need to also be up in power. Gilbert, so we're going back to regular time, 10:30 kiddie parade, July 4th. On at the Indiana Avenue. And I'm still hoping that we get 6, 7, or 8 volunteers from the fire department and elsewhere. I get 7 or 8 volunteers to help with the races right afterwards and the parade, judging and setting up the parade lineup. Down in Indiana Avenue around 9, 10 o'clock anyway, to be down there. 7 or 8 volunteers. I need some commitment of 7 or 8 by next week, July 1st sometime, so I know if I need to recruit elsewhere. And hopefully Mark will do 7 or 8 firefighters. You can always, right, 10 o'clock on that Indiana Avenue. Ty, you're all set to go with that? Afraid? Okay.
We know if, former mayor, is available, because he's helped us with a lot of those.
I'm reaching out to the public here now on TV, it should be on Friday's next TV, or Saturday. Anybody in the public wish to volunteer, be down at Indiana Avenue, around 9:30 or 10 o'clock that day. Or get a hold of me before that somehow. 218-404-1010. 218-404-1010. I only have 20, so I don't want to just cut it off, I'm gonna have 8 volunteers. All right, we talked about, I'd like to have the council consider these items now that I'm gonna bring up. The Sparta Beach is a very valuable piece of property down there that we should be doing something with. And I don't know if it's for sale or not by the city, but it should be for sale or for lease down there and be doing something valuable with it, like a marina, another VC club thing down there. Doing some kind of service for the city of Gilbert somehow if we're not using it anymore, sell it. I don't think it's worth about $500,000. It's a pretty valuable piece of property, just to ignore. Gilbert could use that, or lease it somehow, and do something constructive with that piece of property, other than just, swimming. So I could have to also think about something for that Sparta Beach area, because I don't know how much more swimming is gonna happen down here at, Lake Oregon. Plus a marina should be done down on this end. For instance, we're not gonna have boat landing any longer on this end. So boat landing over there and then dock it over on this side for the campground people. So some kind of marina should be considered in our plans, not just beach, beach or runabouts. We're gonna have to have some docks, some kind to put their boats up on. So that's some consideration on that.
Well, let me make one comment on that. I know that we don't, City of Gilbert doesn't own all of that. DNR owns a portion of it. So I don't know how you would ever sell it. In fact, the Sparta Beach. Aren't you talking about Sparta Beach?
Okay.
Yeah, the DNR owns the driveway into there and a part of it. So I don't believe that'll ever go for sale. And if you're gonna put a marina down there, boy, I think the neighbors in that area are gonna be awful. Nobody's gonna want that boat traffic in front of their houses or cabins. So you gotta, I'm just telling you about as far as ownership, we don't really own the beach totally.
I think he meant for the marina to be on Oregon.
Oh, really?
Both of them.
Oh, yeah.
But, we had more use there. I would check that beach regularly last year. It was packed with people because the beach at Oregon is gone. And so we've had great usage there, and the city should do something to make that a better, more usable facility. There are DNR legacy grants and things out there we can put up, picnic shelters and different things, and maybe upgrade it in different ways. But it's a real asset for the city, and a lot of your citizens were using it last year to a huge degree.
The first question that I would have, that's why I pulled ask for the zoning maps, is, I believe, and we need to verify this, but if the Sparta Beach is zoned as a park, it's required by our charter that we have a referendum if there's any financial transaction that goes on. So that's the first step in the process. We need to see what's out.
DNR is not likely to sell you that beach property. Very unlikely.
Other than the selling or leasing, how about we try to find some use other than just swimming down there by asking some DNR, what would they allow down there, what could we get down there to
And
brainstorm the situation.
And that is a great item to put in front of, that's the reason why I put forward the ordinance to have a Parks and Recreation Commission, because that includes both beaches in town. It includes our parks, it includes our trails. And the first step is to have, I firmly believe, is to have citizen involvement and input to give us ideas.
I'm not suggesting anything, I'm saying we've got to do something. Let's do something, let's brainstorm something to make, get some value out of that for the city of Gilbert, other than nothing. Okay?
But there's a boat landing already there on the lake that's used, it's used a lot, but there's still room for more, boats, because they have like, 8 or 10 places to park their vehicles. I don't think that's fully used. I don't see it. I've been in there my whole life, but I don't see it as a moneymaker for sure. But I wouldn't be against anything if it made sense. But
I don't disagree that we should consider doing something to make improvements to it. I think one of the greatest things of this town, you go from Kennedy Park, to Hopkins Park, to Oregon, to Sparta Beach. We have so many jewels in this city that need to be invested in, need to be protected, and we need to encourage people to utilize them. I'm in full support of, like, you know, if we can do anything, because that's one of those things that significantly improves the quality of life of this town.
Well, maybe we'll add some money to our general funds, something of a rent or lease or some kind of business down there paying property taxes, doing something, I don't know.
I think that's one of the things you risk here is that if you turn it into, you lease some of that out, and revenue comes in, it won't be tax free anymore. At that point, they'll start to tax you on the property, so, it's just, I don't have the answers, but I agree with both of you that brainstorming for new ideas would be a great way to go. Yes.
As long as we're talking about the Sparta Beach now, there's been a problem down there for years. When they redid the parking lot, they added some, milkweed or whatever you wanna call it. What's 1.5 inch crushed taconite, and that is like razor blades.
It is.
I've gotten a flat tire myself down there because of it. I don't know whose idea would ever put 1.5 inch taconite down in the parking lot at a beach, but it was a bad idea. I'm sure I'm not the only one that got a cut tire down there. And then another thing, they got an open dumpster with no lid on it, where all of St. Louis County can put all their household garbage in there. It just doesn't make any sense. If you're gonna have a garbage can, put one on a chain, just a 55 gallon with a Gilbert bag in it. It's just, to me, poorly run. Put it that.
I can see,
The fence, the gate that you go in there, it's so twisted and distorted, it makes Gilbert look bad to even allow that to be left like that. But we're just giving such people a bad impression about this town, the way we do things. That's my view.
maybe I'll get more feedback from also at another session or the public. Or as part of some recreation board that's supposed to be up and running soon. But it should be looked into, okay, that's all I'm saying. And brainstorm some idea for some usage down there other than just swimming. That's my point. Also, 2 other items that I'd like to have the council think about, brainstorm and get some conversation going either on the council table or some other place, public. I know we've given up dealing with the school on the school property. I think I would still like to reach out to our representatives and senators from Minnesota to have them research or come and take a look at the school property and talk with the school and maybe put a veterans nursing home up here in the Iron Range and have it located right here in Gilbert. A veterans nursing home, 3-4 stories, right where the elementary and senior high building is. Hopefully the federal government, with some help from our senators, can bring that up for conversation in Washington and St. Paul, and maybe come to Gilbert, take a look. I know we don't own the property, the school does, but hopefully some seed can take off and grow, and I would think that would be a great location for that on the Iron Range, a veterans nursing home. I wanted that like 30 years ago. I went to Silver Bay, lost out on that. I still believe Gilbert should have that in Gilbert, on the Iron Range, and specifically here in Gilbert. And that's a great location and will attract people to town, maybe spin off some businesses being brought up. And certainly, like I said, hotels, motels might come up for people that want to stay in the Gilbert area here. If you're visiting a veteran here from faraway places. All kinds of things, ideas, but I think I want this council to consider sending that letter as a council, not just as myself, to our representatives, senators, at some point in time here. I'll bring them back up again, and for conversation, that we do that.
There's a current capital request from the feds out there. I don't know if you know, beginning, we should put this in that request.
Well, I'm gonna get, that's my last thing is, haven't forgotten also about our streets and alleys in town need to be looked at and not neglected. I don't know where our situation, where our audit is or where we're at, and I'm not against any,
I can unequivocally tell you, you do not have any funding available to do any street projects.
even an assessment program of 50/50.
Anything's possible, Carl, but in your current situation, you have no capital set aside for this. If you're gonna do a street project, you can't bond for the whole thing. Your next bond that expires is in 2027. If you start saving money next year in your budget, and you start working towards that 2027 and your cash flow situation changes, that would be a good time to prioritize a future project. Because you'll have some capacity. Until then, I don't think you're.
Totally funding. A street project is kind of like assessment program, if there's no sewer and water, underground work to be done. So cosmetically fixing up upper part of the ground, detail involves assessment program that would help.
Part of the picture.
I would have to, I just want that also to think about it, budget time's coming up. To leave, even to go 1 year without doing nothing is 1 year gone. We have to start, our alleys, all of them need to be done. There's not a single good alley in town here. There are only 19, they were put in 1984, no, 1994. 1994, so, 94, 95. So that's been a while, maybe 30 years. So, it's really not.
Actually, in 89,
They were 84. We were born in 1994. 1994. Well, again, I'm just bringing out for consideration and brainstorming, and hopefully we come back and discuss it again. Okay, we'll move on now.
Oh, I just have one more question. Where do we sit on that water plant? Did we get that ceiling raised? Did we get any more?
The ceiling has been raised, we're currently working with
We're
this,
still
trying to get funded.
Extra fund.
But the agency was funded, the ceiling was raised, the agency was funded, they have money. We are probably one of the most ready people out there because ours is already bid. We're currently, Lake has extended the bid period. I'm working with Mike Larson to move forward and see if we can get the additional money through PFA.
And you don't know when this could happen.
I'm thinking the next 60 days.
Okay.
Yes.
The other update from the legislature that I shared with Mike, but I don't know if you're aware, so the local government aid was a target of this year's budget's situation. And there were not, the League of Cities did confirm that there were not any cuts to local government aid. So that should be.
Stay the same?
It should stay the same. So, I mean, adjusted for population.
And we did have a raise for our last budget period. There was a nice little bump.
Yep.
They aren't gonna bump it this year.
So when it comes to budget time, our revenue should be similar to what we got.
Okay, all right. Very good. Chief is not here. City attorney's not here. Chief is here.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Got only a couple items, so I think an agenda item involving the blight situation down lower New York. First thing is the speeding, the trucks that are coming on our main street have been pretty heavy. Like I said, we're averaging about 480 trucks now. During the week, we're down to about 200 some trucks on the weekends. Our highest speed on Main Street has been 61 miles an hour and 55 miles per hour in the last week. So our speeds are a little bit higher in some areas. I know everybody's aware we had a high-speed pursuit here last week that started in Gilbert. We shut it down due to speeds over 60 miles an hour coming across some of the streets. So we shut it down. Fortunately, because of the position of our cameras, we were able to get video and a license plate off the camera. We ended up pursuing the vehicle out into locating the vehicle and getting cut off all on the backs of the Worthy Bond off 97. So we did forfeit a vehicle on that and we were in custody. So the speeds on Main Street have been picking up. The pursuit started on Main Street and going through our community, we shut it down within 12 seconds in the initial pursuit due to the speed on their side streets. So made some good decisions there. The other thing is we've been told that we're pretty much on our own. The state patrol, they cut the funding for the state patrol to have a car work this area. So we're on our own. There will not be crashes or provide any extra speed enforcement in Gilbert due to the funding being cut. They had only 8 hours for the entire construction season, so that lasted a week.
Is that recent? Because I literally, I think it was last week, I think I saw a state trooper like 3 times.
Yeah, so they will come through, but that trooper covers from Ely to Cotton to Cook, or just south of Warren. So they've been directed to come here as much as they can. We've been trying to get commercial vehicles here. If you've noticed, we had a little issue with MnDOT. They came in and took down our signs for the dynamic braking. They said they were not within the sign, it was in the right of way, so they took them down. I spent 2 days fighting with MnDOT, showing them videos and everything else that this is why we put the signs up because we had a major issue going. So finally, it was decided that they would put the signs back up. However, the sign crew out of Duluth that took the signs down, different sign crew put them up, they didn't put them on our city limits. So we can't enforce the J braking laws right now because they put them in Evelyn and in Virginia, they put them in wrong towns. So I've lost a little faith in MnDOT right now. It's been some pretty nasty emails about it because we have a problem. We ended up taking one sign and putting the 135. It was kind of ironic that they came in and took down our signs when 6 other communities within the MnDOT District 1 has signs up that are not MnDOT approved. So for some reason we were, I'm just gonna say we're targeted, and I'm not sure why. So if you notice when you leave town here, they were not put up, we had put up a 30-mile-an-hour sign just to get past Glasgow Avenue. They would not do it without a speed study. I provided them over 40 videos of pedestrians trying to cross at the end of Broadway Street. They decided that they still need to do a speed study, but we came to the agreement that we would just cover up the 40-mile-an-hour sign. So technically it's still 30, so I'm not sure why they did that, but they use the 60s. So I'm trying to keep the speed down on the south of the Main Street. So that's been kind of the biggest things. Our ATV traffic has been up. During our enforcement activities, we observed just under 800 ATVs during enforcement periods. We stopped just over 100 of those ATVs. 3 resulted in DUI arrests with 1 ATV forfeited, about 6 other citations for various violations. So basically 1 out of 10 vehicles that we stopped resulted in a citation or restorative warnings. The scary part is we have had 5 DUIs and ATVs just this month alone, which is probably one of the busiest times we've ever had. Our call volume is at 346 calls, which we usually do about 270, 280 calls for the month of June. So we would have picked up a lot because of the traffic. And we've had 5 ATV crashes, which is more than we've ever had in June. So things are picking up, a lot more ATVs. You probably see a lot more ATVs. We're finding out that we're seeing more ATV crashes involving side-by-sides than one-up ATVs. And we're trying to get a handle on those ATVs the best that we can. So our money is now ran out, our grant money for ATV. We will not be re-upped until, I believe until September, but we're still gonna try to get out and work some ATV enforcement when we have time. Unfortunately, we're trying to spend more time on Main Street with speed enforcement. So that's kind of what we've kind of been going on. A little ray of sunshine, kind of a cool story. Last fall, we had an individual in town here pass away. One of the officers, when dealing with it, when the residents notified, observed a lot of property that appeared to be worth several $100,000, specifically baseball cards. The officer was kind enough, went up and beyond, tried to track down family who does not live in the area, who was out in Pittsburgh and stuff. And they ended up, our officer spent 2 days on just making sure that place was secure and knew with what they had seen. Ironically, there was I'm gonna forget the name now, oh my gosh. Anyways, to make a small story short, these baseball cards have been on auction. I think one of the highest ones was a Mickey Mantle card that went for $67,000. There's 5 auctions going on. The first auction is in excess of $600,000. So the family's been very appreciative and they wanted to donate. They were understanding that we were short a little bit of money on ATV, really equipment and stuff like that. So they donated $5,000 to put towards the ATV with the agreement that we put something on the machine just in memory of Mr. Mulder. So we will do that as long as the council accepts that donation. I will put that, the check is en route. I will put that next council meeting for officials. So the family's very happy. So. And that is all I have.
Okay, I got something for you. I need you to explain to the public and so they know next time when it happens that don't look for it and just watch your phones. I'm gonna call what happened to the siren, the tornado thing. Gilbert didn't get, Junior got a siren, that one got done. I don't know. And I thought maybe nobody called Gilbert to turn on the sirens and stop the fence on land somewhere, or you were out in water or something. But then you explained to me, and I want you to explain to council and to people for next time. Okay?
Yeah. So, a little over a year ago, we've had, for many years, we've had a couple sirens kind of kicking out. We had as many as 5 sirens and went down to 3. And now it's gone down to nothing. Dispatch, Simmons County Dispatch used to be able to activate the siren from dawn to Ruth and have activated the sirens. It still is on that, however, the sirens don't work. Last year we came to the council, we spoke about cost to replace the sirens, and the initial bid was about $100,000. And I know that a couple of councils had concerns about the Sparta and Genoa area. When I went to the Chiefs conference, I sat down and we tried to crunch the numbers on trying to think a little cheaper. We were able to get it down to $60,000, but that was only going to cover approximately, I'm kind of guessing right now, because I don't remember exactly, around 60% of the city, of the actual city here, would have 80 decibels of alert. Prior to anything outside of that, you were going to drop down to 70 and 60 decibels. To put that in terms, 80 decibels is like standing within 10 feet of a lawnmower. So it's pretty low. Once you get 70, now you're getting down to that area of a generator. Honda generators are around 60 decibels. So every 10 decibels, the sound doubles. So by having one siren in town, you'd be able to cover a majority of the town with around 70 decibels at least. We would not have any coverage out, we'd be under the 60 decibel limit, which is basically a conversation that we're having for noise. The Sparta and Genoa, we then tried to do 2 different siren systems, that one wasn't rotating and one on Sparta. That would cover Sparta and cover a majority of the Gilbert proper, but it would not cover Genoa or anything like that. The discussion with the council was, we were able to get down to just get a little bit of coverage for $60,000, and this was last year. We did that. Sammy and I worked on that. We had DSC come up and do sound tests and everything else. The sirens that we have are from the 1960s, so they're almost 70 years old. And we're lucky that we got as much time as we have. So we discussed, the time we talked about, we've got the phone alert system, which I believe most people have it. I know there was concerns about some of the elderly not having at the time. Even last year we talked about it, was talking about discussions and how we notify and stuff like that. So in regards to the sirens and Evlith and other cities activating them, they activate them based on a warning. which indicates that there's tornado activity. When I got the phone call, I immediately went out to my lookout post, which is usually off of the Gilbert Bridge, and I can see everything to the west. And I have access, because I'm part of emergency management, to a radar system out on Duluth that I can monitor exactly what they're seeing off the top of the radar. And any tornado activity was south of Evelyn and was north of Virginia. The only part that I would consider to be that the clouds were starting to get a little gray, a little bit more colored into the yellow green color, was north of town. And I was still, people realize our jurisdiction goes 2 miles to the north here, but it's all mining property, goes actually up into Pike. We actually kind of brought up against Pike Township. So any activity was north. So our town was not at any time threatened by any tornado activity. Evelyn activated their sirens due to the activity that was kind of south of town, even though there was no touchdowns, so it was an open haven area. So the question always comes up, even if we had the sirens, would I have activated them? I probably would not have. Just because I was out with my observations and looking at the radar, all the activity was south of us. There was no tornado activity within the city limits of Gilbert or even close. It was to the south and it was to the north. So I don't know that we can activate it because we did have working sirens. Now, does that change in the future if we don't have working sirens? There's not much I can do. If the city wants to invest to the entire town, I think we can probably do it for around $100,000. If we just want to cover Gilbert, I think we can do it pretty reasonably for about $61,000 is one of the bids I have from last year. Has that gone up? I don't know. So we have some options, and we would be responsible for putting the poles in. It does not include putting the poles in, which is probably another $5,000 to $10,000 there, so we bought the pole in. So we're looking at around $60,000 to $80,000. That's what the city association is doing.
So all of them, all the sirens just quit working all of a sudden?
No, it's been over years. They've slowly been dying down. And again, like I said, from the 60s era, we've tried to piecemeal them together, try to keep them going. Basically, we've had some electricians come and get them going again. The problem with a lot of machines, with those things is that everything it has moving parts, and they don't make the parts anymore. Federal Signal does not make the parts. So we can try to call other cities that have old ones and try to piece them together, but I don't even know who would even find to work on those or who would be willing to.
So the first Wednesday every month at 1 o'clock, those sirens will work?
We can flip the switch, but nothing's gonna happen. We can flip the switch, but nothing's gonna happen.
Okay.
And we talked about that last year. Again, I think the biggest thing comes down to the other problem is I looked at some grant funding for the sirens, and because we have not had a tornado in the past 50 years touchdown in our community, people have to realize there's places in Kansas that still do not have siren systems in the state of Kansas, and they have some of the highest tornado activity. But obviously, in the last couple of years, you've seen a lot more tornado activity in Minnesota, and it's gotten substantial. So it's something that we can look at. Iowa was the same boat a few years ago. They did not have a working siren, and they decided to put one in. And that at the time was 31 or 32,000.
If you knew one coming, could you take the squad cars and go around and do your siren?
Well, so we did do that. We do have the piece in the squad cars. We usually try to get the campgrounds first. The campgrounds in Gilbert were pretty proactive. I believe we had several people stay in the community center for a while. And that's, credit to our campground managers in the two places. I believe we had one squad by logging who were finding residents over there, or the campground over there. So to do all that, go up and down the streets, we can certainly try it. It's again, our PAs again are running around 85, 90 decibels. If we're going on the street, they're directional. With houses, right inside the house, you might be getting 60 decibels if you're lucky. So
I think it's better than nothing.
yeah, we can certainly, do that.
Part of the discussion last year was the fact that cities aren't putting sirens in anymore, they're going to a notification system. That's how I get my stuff.
And frankly, you get more information in notification. There's a lot of times where, you're in, pick a city, and the siren goes off, and the first question you have is, why is the siren going off? And the only thing you actually hear is the siren. With the cell phone technology, it scares the bejesus out of you. And then you have, 5 sentences of, here's what's going on. and gives more information, to turn on the TV or listen to the radio or whatever.
Well, and I think also this was kind of a wake-up call for a lot of citizens that didn't realize we made the switch last year. And now those citizens should be going out and getting one of the weather alert radios. So hey, it looks kind of iffy out there, you turn on your weather alert radio, gives you all broadcast, gives you the emergency notifications. At the end of the day, it's kind of up to each individual citizen to prepare themselves appropriately. It's just like in the winter, you put a jacket on when you go outside, just for the weather.
And I think one of the things, I watched some of the conversations, I've had live conversations with people, I've watched some of the conversations in social media. And this is one of those times where it's really truly an opportunity for the city to kind of debrief a little bit, but to improve how we communicate to the public. I know that I believe May, or is it April, that is Severe Weather Awareness Month. There are times on the calendar that are absolutely perfect times for us to think about, hey, do we need a communications plan to put stuff in people's utility bills, to communicate it on our Facebook page, to communicate it on our website so that people know what's going on. Especially, and I'm pulling from deep personal experience. I was a crisis communicator for disaster recovery situation for more years than I can count. The time that we want to communicate this stuff is well in advance of the emergency. I think everybody understands that and knows that. You're talking about putting together a calendar of public works types of things. I think something like this is a notable citywide project to be able to educate our community what is happening and how it could possibly affect them in time of crisis. So I think that's something that we should all give a lot of serious thought to, is how we can improve that, because there was just a ton of questions that I think we have a lot of opportunities to do this better.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point about weather radios. The city could provide every household with a emergency weather radio to get the alerts for $35,000. We could buy every home in this town for $35,000. So that's an option too. And I think we could probably get it cheaper because we buy in bulk. So that's an option too. And the days of the whistle was originally used for fire. Anytime there's a fire too, that was stopped several years ago. And they're just used for weather emergency. In my 26 years here, I've never had active testing to do weather.
And before that, it was at 9 o'clock, it would go off every kid.
9 o'clock whistle, yeah, there's a 9 o'clock whistle. So, and maybe that was part of the problem. Maybe that's when they stopped doing the 9 o'clock whistle. It just wasn't getting exercised anymore. Moving parts weren't getting exercised as much, and I was doing malfunction.
Well, thanks for that information.
All that said, I do want to say a huge thank you for was it Sunday night or Monday night and Friday night? Thank you and your department for all of the work that you did. People in town don't see that part anymore, and I think they need to know that that's a critical part of keeping the town safe. So thank you and everybody in your team that helped out.
Exactly.
Yeah, I've run in firsthand experience. I think it was you, Ty, that came down our street during straight line winds, making sure everybody was safe. My neighbor and I were out with flashlights checking on our neighbors, and then you came down, checked on us, made sure we were all okay, so I really appreciate that.
And he actually, last month, helped me with foot pursuit. He actually was in the right place at the right time for that foot pursuit. So, and catching that individual high nut that was fighting trees down the campground. So he cut him off for us. I wasn't going to probably catch him. Question.
So Ty, thank you for the numbers of kind of like what's going on this month. I guess one of the things that I'm getting more frequent conversations, I don't know if you saw, but there's a pretty big conversation now about people blowing stop signs, particularly in Lower Michigan and stuff. I think it would be helpful if we had some visibility to the stats, just on a general level of like how many calls you all actually get on a month. That's one of the things that I think this community needs to understand, is what you all do. You don't just, sit in a car and wait for somebody to drive by speeding. You do a whole bunch more stuff, and that is reflected in the numbers. I think it would be a good idea for us to get more public visibility to some of those numbers. Obviously, you would need to, figure out what that would be. But I think it long-term helps the public relations of your department to bring that information out to the public.
Yeah, so as far as the stop signs, that was brought to my attention last council meeting too. What I do is, the officers, I can see what my officers are doing, I can see 12 or 15 seconds, I can't remember, I can see the GPS, so I know where they're at. So when they sit somewhere, I can see when they're sitting there. So I've given them directives, specifically in some of the street to try to spend 1 hour per shift working the speed on Indiana and working the stop signs at Summit. Some days it doesn't happen, due to, we were averaging 14 calls there for a while in day shifts or into the evening. So, it's really tough when you only have one officer or even two officers working between two towns to, we're stop sign enforcement, but then we're getting 10 times more complaints about the speed on Main Street. So we try to balance that. I know Lieutenant Chircano's working on bringing back AFib Annie. I don't know if you know that being national attention. We put a recessing Annie in a squad car on Main Street and then we swap her up with our female officer and then to try to do it. So we're going to try doing that again. It'll probably happen after the 4th. But so we're going to try to put a squad car just for some visibility. And then once they get used to it, they realize it's fake and then we put a real squad and we try to keep some people. So.
And that's where I'm going with the numbers, is I think, especially this summer with how busy you are with, the dynamic braking enforcement, speeding on Main Street, like those are high priority types of things. I think we need to get some awareness to the town of like, you're doing great work, but it's just not some of the more mundane things like, a stop sign on Sherwood and so forth.
Yeah, and we've been fortunate, we've had a trooper that was on a different point, but he is moving this month, so we will kind of lose that local trooper that's usually coming and going from the area, so you'll see less visibility from that too now, so. So yeah, we're trying to get out there, we're trying to do stops everywhere. The problem is if you sit up on, you can sit on Main Street and you can clock, upwards of 200 to 250 cars an hour. You go up on Summit Street, you're gonna see maybe sometimes 7 to 12 cars an hour at the stop sign. So you try to put your resources towards it, but we'll try to get more up there, but they have to make a notice when they're up on the Summit Street. So.
Thank you.
And I will start providing when I provided that packet a couple months ago with all the activity, I can do a monthly run of that for you. One of the reasons why we stopped doing that was because it's so detailed. People were upset about, their medicals and seeing the address there. People were going to see it because it becomes, once I provide it to you, it becomes public information. It's public information anyways, but we're not doing some embarrassed of embarrassing people. So we try to just redact some of the mental health calls, suicides, hangings, stuff like that, just to try to not embarrass people. So
They're all nameless anyway, right?
what's that?
They're nameless.
They're nameless, but you can see the address. So you can usually kind of figure out what happened there. So we try to criminal sexual assaults, any type of child protection stuff, we usually redact. Is it public data? I don't know. We protect people. If they have a complaint, we can probably release it. So I can do that. I'll just redact some.
I know that some communities, primarily larger ones, have the ability to, access this information online. At some point, this gets put into a database.
Yes, so we're working with St. Louis County, 28 agencies are working, going to a new system. Our system's antiquated. That's why we got that print off. There were so many pages. It's such an antiquated system. It was built in 2004. In 2027, we're hoping to be migrating to a new system. Those pages went to it. And that is unbelievable the amount of data you can access. I mean, you can tell everything, crime, down to any one geographic areas, within blocks. It's going to be very, very nice. And that's probably the future. So, but that's good. It's a couple of years old. So
yeah, and I mean those are the types of discussions that we need to see, sooner rather than later. As far as what is that going to cost us? It is a good investment. It's public knowledge. I would love the person that lives on New York and Summit to be able to look at a map online and say, hey, I have these 4 things that happened in my home. I think that's good public information.
Yeah, and if we make a traffic stop, it'll actually kick up and go pull up and see where that traffic stop is made. Now, keep in mind, when that traffic stop's made, a lot of times it's one of the violations because if you're going 90 miles an hour, it takes us a couple months to catch up to, but at least you have an idea of where we're at, so.
Off the subject, did you ever get that cardboard crusher online?
It's ironic to bring that up because I'm actually working on that. I had a little family emergency this weekend. Because we've done the ATV and they were looking for a couple of things. Sammy had to take the back off and he also wanted a video of it operating. So Sammy just really sent me the video on Friday of it operating. So that'll be posted on that it actually operates. So, and he also took pictures of the serial numbers and all that. So that will be going on here. I was gonna do it this week, but I have some family stuff in me, so, but it will be over, so, yeah, it's all working out, so. And it actually works very well, so, very good, so.
Alright, so, next item, city engineer. I think here we have on the agenda here, the additions. Public Works Operation Director Sam Monitor, other than that, he actually talked to me about making that hiring of a replacement for Tim up to you guys. So we need to do something, we'll be able to consider something to be done soon, because you're gonna need it after these summer people go away and the winter comes. Campground host not here, library director, first responder, city clerk, Mike.
I'm good.
You're good? Anybody else got anything for Mike? Okay, we're gonna have the call recess this meeting, so we can go into the hearing.
I move to suspend this meeting for the public hearing.
Second.
Counselor Horn, supported by Counselor Sterling, to recess suspend this meeting at 7:17. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, 7:18 of call the hearing to order for the Bonton's administrative hearing. Now in order at 7:18. Can I have roll call? People, also adjourned.
Our roll call is current, I don't know where this is Brian, we do not need to make a roll call for every time we go in around here, everybody's in the building, nothing's changed.
Make sure I see that.
Here, here.
All right. We have a hearing here to discuss property, notice of blight yard condition on address 112 New York Avenue East, parcel ID 060-0020-01440. The letter has been sent, correct?
Correct.
And you show us pictures of the property, and we also have some property neighbors for that property here.
So if I can start out, the property owner's not here right now, but he did provide us a packet late this afternoon. I will read this to the council. Do you remember this packet, this picture that are coming through are pictures that he provided today. Those pictures that I provided to you are from yesterday afternoon. So he has done some cleanup, but I'm gonna talk a little bit about, he left some things out in his photographs, and I just had my officer run down just now and take some more pictures. So I'm gonna read the letter he provided this afternoon, as he did not want to show up. Dear members of the council, my name is Rio Bontemps, writing about the blight nuisance letter I received for my property at 112 New York Avenue East. Unfortunately, I'm unable to attend the meeting due to social anxiety, so I'm submitting this letter. The vehicle in question is operable, but not yet registered, and I do not currently have a driver's license. I'm actively working to resolve this issue. I've also made significant progress in cleaning up the yard and continue to improve the property's condition. Additionally, I've purchased siding and plan to install it soon to enhance the appearance of the house and contribute positively to the neighborhood. I am willing to address any other concerns to ensure my property meets community standards. Please find attached recent photographs of the clean yard. I'm in the process of taking additional pictures to further document the improvements. Thank you for your time and understanding. Sincerely, Neil Fontes. So those pictures that he provided, where I just had my officer run down, he obviously made a big improvement from yesterday to today. However, in the alley, if you notice, he did not take any pictures in the alley for some obvious reason. So she just emailed them to me here. I will provide them, I will show you my laptop since I didn't have time to print them off. You see, she took these at 6:12 p.m. So. So I'll try to show two at a time. So. Let's scroll down. So, this one here. So he cleaned up that one slide right there, so he's completely still trash.
To clarify too, do we know if this is part of the cleanup going on right now, or is that just his storage and stuff?
Yeah, he hasn't gotten that here or nothing, so he's trying to make it to also trash. So that's the back, but he did provide pictures of that. So.
Listen, Donnie, you here to say anything?
So.
Well,
I'd like a viewpoint of a neighbor that's been dealing with this for about, how many years?
At least 6 years now.
6 years now, dealing with this for 6 years now.
And, Rio, God bless his soul, he means well, he does clean up his yard, but then he goes right back to where it was before. I can talk to him, while I'm doing the face, and he's easy to talk to, and he agrees with everything I say, then he cleans up his yard, but then a month later, he goes right back Ty. He's been on and off this all the time, I always complain to Ty about it. And then, Mayor Obastar, you also know, you've been down there, you've seen it. I don't know what can be done with him, other than, well, right now it's a walking hazard, you see all the rocks and stuff in the ground.
I said this 4 years ago, this is unacceptable in Gilbert and in America, in any residential area, unacceptable.
And then the four-wheelers he has in his, or ATV, he accumulated in his yard. From what I've gathered, they're not even his. So
They're not registered either, so the questions I have is, so basically, the council has to make a decision whether this is a nuisance. You're basically playing the judge and the jury. Is this considered, do you consider this a nuisance? And if you do consider it a nuisance, do you want to make a motion towards abatement? The abatement with that would mean that would give me the permission to either, it's up to the council whether or not the city crew goes on and cleans it up, or we go with a contractor. We do have some contractors that would be willing to probably help out. I don't know the timeline on that. So basically how it works is, even if the city crew went on, we would bill a certain amount of hours, because there's quite a bit of stuff. There'd be a loader and our skid steer plus a dump truck. It would be billed per hour for how long it takes to, we would come to bill, of course, the cost would be for labor and anything else to see that. We then provide them with an invoice, which is a net 30. If they do not pay that invoice within 30 days, the city is then allowed to certify it to the taxes and put in the tax rolls for reimbursement. The big question here is, there's some very clear nuisance here. I've shown you the latest pictures. The one thing is in question is, and this is the one you're going to make a decision on, is there's a lot of rock there. He claims it is rock to make his yard look better. I guess it's in the eye of the beholder. As far as it being any type of landscaping rock or, so that would be the question I have is, Is that rock considered a nuisance or is it considered
If I might
landscape?
add a thing to that, Mr. Roth, my garage, you know, my garage is adjoining his property. I've had rock come down into my property and I ruined one lawnmower, hitting one lawnmower. And, so now after I did that, I always check, but I'm constantly throwing rocks back into his property.
Yeah, so that actually could probably clean up that rock. It's gonna be up to the council and how they wanna do that. You know, I try to use discretion to go and start pulling stuff off the property. The vehicle would be towed, it's not registered, even though, you know, there's a letter stated that it's in funds. Doesn't matter, it's not registered. The ATVs aren't registered, I'm pretty sure they don't run. And, so that would be the first thing I'd probably pull off, is pull the easy stuff off, have the towing company come and grab that. And then by the time we come back, maybe he cleans up more, maybe he doesn't. But I just need permission to say we want to abate the property. We also have a court trial with him in August for the blight too. We've had that before and then the judge has dismissed the case without prejudice. So, this is why we're trying this way to see how it works. So we're kind of putting it on you rather than the judge. So
I have noticed him all day today working on his property. But I think that was only because you guys wanted.
well, he knew this hearing was coming, so, you know, we've served him twice now, so, yeah.
So Ty, to clarify, if we allow you to move forward with the abatement and whatnot, and you guys remove the ATVs and like the vehicle, because they're not registered, he would have no way of getting those back, they would just essentially be,
If he owns them, he get them back.
he can't, okay.
He could
So
get
they
them
just
back.
go like impound lot, or how does that work?
Yeah, so we have a little deal with Army with they told from the city, they didn't want to charge for storage initially, it was 7 days leeway, but that would give him the option to come get it. If he doesn't get there, then we would just consider it abandoned property, and then we usually contract with Army Shell, they do all the paperwork to do the abandoned property lot, so we have nothing to do with it, so, which is good because that'll pay for the toll bills and stuff, so.
So, assuming we go forward with this and go through the process, so it's the 24th of June right now, flash forward to the 24th of September. And we are very likely faced with the same property, the same situation. Are you coming back to us again?
Have to, yes. That's one problem with this abatement thing, is we've tried it out for last year in Gilbert, August, and we have one property that it's every 30 days, we're doing another abatement, so it's unbelievable. Not near as bad, this is by far the worst property that we have between the two communities, so. I thought it was kind of cute, but if you noticed there was a fire and the fire pit going for the pictures today, so.
And I guess the other question that I have to ask is that, there are clearly some other issues going on with the individual. Have we been able to maybe reach out to see if you can use any kind of support?
Reach out maybe to the health department?
Well, I'm thinking more of a mental health issue.
Yeah.
Social services of some.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
so,
we notify them to put this on their radar.
yeah, we can do that. My expectations of anything being forwarded or prior to police, we just had them in town, we have 204 Wisconsin with that property that's starting to crumble on us, that we're working on. And the health department basically said it's our problem, so we're trying to work on that property now too, so.
My concern is for the individual. If we go forward and remove items, it is very likely that it's going to have a psychological impact to the individual. And do we have necessary safety net to?
I wouldn't say I'm a safety net, you know, I can tell you that there's been, we've made arrests, narcotics has been an issue at the facilities. Is there some mental health? Is there some mental health? Yes, but there's also compassion.
But clearly there's an issue for that.
So if the council votes for abatement, How soon do you expect?
Well, I would, in the next 2 days, we've been told the vehicles off, get that cleared out, and then it depends on what the council would like, if they want the city crew to go and clean it up, or would they like us to find a contractor to do it. Now, I've got one contractor that we use over in Wywabic. I'm sure he will, be very happy to probably help us out too, but it would probably be a few weeks before we do it.
This contractor is not gonna wait till the property taxes are paid to get him.
No, so the city will have to pay them, yep, so the city pays them, which I can guarantee this property would be no less than probably $3,000. Just, we've had a few built out at 1,500 over in Wabac, and this property is at least double, if not 3 times as bad, so.
Will we be including the cost of security for the utility by his?
Yes, we'll have an officer down there for as long as it takes, so
And that will be included in the agreement.
we can bill it correct, yeah.
Okay, so he's got a lot of rocks there. Who determines if rock is decorative and which one has to go?
Well, technically it's the council, but we can't talk about 3,000 rocks, you know, so.
Right.
But you're right, you know. The reality is this, you're giving the police department the directive to clean it up. We're gonna try to use the best discretion we have. And it's a balance of keeping the neighbors happy and us taking care of the problem. And that's so, I mean, one person's trash and another person's treasure, you know, and it can be open for interpretation. Now, the reality is we take this rock off and he hired an attorney and tried to sue us. I think that's certainly, he could litigate against us. Do I think he'd be successful? I don't know. I think if you look at some of that rock, you can probably tell where it came from. And, so I think it'd be a hard case, but again, anybody can litigate, sue, whatever they want to do for that. But, so we could take all the rock off and we could potentially open us up for some litigation. But I don't know. This is never, I've never had anything this in my career. Usually it's junk, garbage cars. This is rock, a lot of rock. A lot. I would guess a couple dump truck loads at least. Maybe more, I don't know.
Start with the junk first and then go into the rock situation. No,
Yeah, and that's certainly a thing too. We can clean up the big messes initially, and then take a little breath and see how he reacts and see what he's gonna do, and see if he wants to do it himself, or if he's gonna keep pushing the shit, and we can keep, I guess, calling the problem to abate it. At least the stuff that we have in our most recent photos, anything new, we won't be able to take, sadly. So,
Like I said before, he's an easy person to talk to.
Yep.
So I can maybe relate to him to move some of this rock and use it as a decorative rather than a tripping hazard, although I can take that out myself. You know, him and I get along very well.
yeah, he's personal. I've never had any issue with him as far as conversation. So some of the other people, you know, some of their clientele will be going. So
I would say, I mean, rock is rock, and it is what it is. But if any of it is in the sidewalk or the boulevard or any of the city, you know, managed or maintained property, that should be removed because it's a public hazard. Within the yard interior,
we're gonna get the junk, all that other stuff.
yeah,
Yeah, the junk, yeah.
and it's up to you. And I want the city crew. I mean, I would imagine we could probably put a crew together. Zach could probably go and get some of the big stuff out initially, work on it probably tomorrow or Thursday, and then we could probably get a majority of the big stuff out with the city crew probably by the end of the week. If not, first part of next week. I know they're busy and stuff, but I think you get a couple guys going and start moving some stuff pretty quick, especially with weather.
How much notice would he need if we proceeded with the abatement?
There's no notice, as soon as we're told.
But at this point, he's already had the notice he's gonna get.
Yeah, he had the opportunity to come here to this case, he chose to just submit a letter, which in most of these cases, 90% of people don't show up.
He was here.
He stopped in for like a quick second, just to hand the envelope.
Okay. So yeah, this was his chance to present his case, to ask for.
Should be noticed he was here, just dropped off that thing and left.
Clearly, there are difficulties, and that's why you're seeing this evidence. And, being sensitive to people who aren't the same as the rest of us is part of our job. But this is, I've never seen anything like it in my life. And it's not fair to the neighbors.
So it's been going on for 6 years.
You have to try your best to work it through a step at a time, and I think you're on the right journey here.
I'm fed up 6 years ago, it's unacceptable. I think more, if we're gonna talk more about it, or if we're ready to close this meeting, and then,
Well, I have a question. I have a picture of the front of his house going down the sidewalk. And the brush that he has along his fence line is covering half of the city sidewalk. Do we trim that?
Yeah.
We would have to.
it's extending over the city property, yeah. Extending over the city property, yeah.
We would have to trim to a certain height.
I keep my brush, my hedges trimmed in the front. I think it's about 6 feet. Just in case if some kid runs down with a bicycle or something.
Generally 6 to 7 feet is probably about average.
Is that what it is?
If you need any more questions, ask now, or else we get close to that. Are we gonna get some kind of consensus of, some kind of motion under new business there? Number 8, to, help the police department out? And help the neighbors out?
Either to abate or not abate.
Huh?
Either to abate, so you can abate, not abate, or table. And what table would be just to push out to the next council meeting, then give them time to clean it up.
No.
I personally not in favor of that because I think this was supposed to go last council meeting and there was no change, he was aware of it, and then it didn't happen, so. But it's up to the council, and that's why I just present the stuff and you can make decisions.
I'm gonna be making motions to do something. If there's any more questions for anybody here? Okay,
I move to close the hearing.
motion by Councilor Skirvin to close, for your second,
I'll second.
second by Councilor Horn. At 7:37, all in favor, any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously, 5-0. All right, reconvene the meeting, reconvene the meeting, we have a motion to reconvene.
Make a motion to go back to normal council meeting.
I'll second.
Moved by Councilor Bertocci, supported by Councilor Horn to reconvene the regular council meeting of June 24th, 2025.
Mayor, if I can just bring one quick thing on this, thank you for being the property.
Well, we have done
But you will, yeah, okay, I'll let you finish. Yeah, sorry, I'm on my head because there's a couple other issues I have to bring up too, so.
it. Old business,
Amazing.
the old business, we got, SEH contract, Mike.
We've been working with SEH for the past 6 months to get a contract, to know what our costs are gonna be for all the engineering in the community center. We have $1 million of funding, and that looks like their engineering will be about $100,000, 107, whatever it was here. And that's within the realm of reality. Engineering costs of 10 to 12% are considered reasonable. If we're at the 20% threshold, I would think they'd be overcharging us here, so we have to have an expectation we're gonna pay something, and they're within accepted parameters within the industry, so. The IRRB would make us have an engineer on the project, so, we've been down this road, it's just approving the proposal here, we've already approved the process, so. Need a motion to.
So
Question.
question based on the, so I was at the last meeting, was very enlightened in the process, so, I guess the first question is $110,000, that would be part of the $1 million grant that I would include, as approved payment.
Yeah, we got 890,000.
And then looking at this, it looks to me like they got a message from us, from the meeting as to what absolutely has to be included in the project.
Correct.
Is it your assessment that we're gonna get the HVAC, we're gonna get the ADA bathroom, and then whatever else?
Those are our highest priorities, and that may use all our money. If there's additional monies, we'll be able to do something else, but it's gonna be more like paid parking lot or something like that. So, we have to get there and go through the process, get the bid, see where we're at, but our targeted projects are the ADA and the heating system.
And so they were able to significantly like adjust. I know there was a lot of question, like, we're only gonna be able to get this. And they were able to
Yeah,
sharpen the pencil.
they made adjustments.
I'm satisfied with that.
Okay, if everybody's okay, we can make a motion to approve the contract with SEH for $110,000.
I will
Name of the contract or what name?
Professional
Gilbert
services.
Community Center improvements.
What is the motion?
I move to approve the proposal.
Motion by Councilor Skirvich, second by
I'll second.
also Councilor Pottanen to approve the proposal for professional services to the Gilbert Community Center improvements by SEH for $110,000. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously, 5-0. All right, agreement for professional services. So what's the next one?
The next project here is our I&I reduction, phase 2. We got a big project in 2021 working on this. We're on the second phase of that project. We may end up getting funding for an additional phase later, but we have $500,000 to work on this project. The engineering cost appears to be $74,000. There are some alternates available. If we get the bids and we're able to do more manholes than we originally thought, those alternates are included in the process here. So that's how they will be advertised for bid. And again, we need to work with them on this project, so it's kind of where we're at. I think their engineering's a little bit higher, but there's a lot of work to be done here. Identify everything, and lift covers and assess the manholes, and go through all this, so I don't think it's exorbitant, I think it's pretty standard and looks to be reasonable.
Is that their management fee in there too, then, so they'll be inspecting?
Yep,
Okay.
And I read here that all locations are on city-owned property.
correct,
Private property, so it's-
I'll see.
Okay, if everything's in order, are we gonna agree to that contract with the CH for I&I manholes, issues to be improved on? And again, you said we got a grant for that?
We did.
I move to approve the agreement for professional services for the manhole project.
With SEH,
With SEH.
moved by Council Skirvich, supported by,
I'll second.
second by Council Warren. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, say nay. Motion carries 5-0 unanimously.
And then, Mayor, if I may, I just looked it up, but when we have an abatement hearing like that, we actually need to stay in the hearing when we make our decision, because it's outside of the city council jurisdiction, it is the hearing's jurisdiction to make a ruling.
In the hearing?
So.
Yeah.
We have.
Under new business, we have a lot
My
of
understanding by, reaching out to council, was that we should close it and then make the vote, but I'm not the expert here, so I can go either way.
I know under new business, we have Bottom's hearing, but I'd like to, I don't know if you call this, we want to go back to meeting and open up the Bottom's hearing meeting.
Well, without the attorney's advice, I've never,
Because I know the mayor.
I only say that because we've had hearings, see, this is a confusion. We've had hearings all by themselves on a separate day, different night, and we did it right then and there, everything.
When you were gonna make the motion in the hearing, I think you were correct. You were gonna make the motion in the hearing, was still open.
Well, kinda like what he's saying, I'm verifying out, because again, they're not done in the middle of a regular meeting ever. They're done on their own, standalone, and not in the middle.
Without Brian's advice, I'm guessing a little bit that a motion to reconsider closing the hearing would effectively allow us to reopen it.
I don't think that motion.
We can recess again. Recess again, Brian?
I'll make the motion to reconsider closing the hearing.
A second.
No, recessing the regular meeting.
Okay.
We'll recess the meeting first.
Recess.
We just got done some different business in the regular meeting, recess the meeting again.
Right.
Motion by Council Skrillex to recess this meeting at 7:46, we hear a second. Second by Council Bertocci. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion nay. Motion carries 5-0. All right. 7:47, we consider to reopen the hearing for the Bontem's hearing. Motion to reconsider opening that hearing.
So moved.
Moved by Councilor Skrillex, supported by
Support.
Councilor Bertocci. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries to reconsider reopening the hearing. We are now reopened with the hearing for the Bontem's property. All right, here we are again. Record who's here. All right. Now that we're in here, we've had the hearing. Any more information we need? Hearing none, I'll step off the chair and make a motion that we abate the property at, other page here, front page.
I believe the property is at.
Yeah, okay, 112, West Florida, New York Avenue East, parcel ID number 060-0020-01440. See if Gilbert abates that piece of property. No.
Mayor stepped off the chair to make a motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second
Motion has been seconded. By Mr. Cotton. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Hearing none, motion carries 5-0. Gavel goes back to the mayor.
Thank you. Anything else you need on that?
No, thank you. The only question I have is, how does the council want to work? We're looking at possibly bringing 40 more of these too. So I need to know what the council would like to do. If you want to do this a full day of them in August, or if you want me to bring 10 a month, or what we'd like to do on that. So,
10 at a time.
okay.
So if they hear that we're going to abatement, are someone gonna take action and clean up, so you might end up with 20?
I'm anticipating of this, probably the 60, 70 properties we're doing, we'll get at least 20 to 30 in compliance. And we'll probably be around 40 that won't be in compliance. So we're looking at about 60, 70 properties. Unless the council wants us to back out this year and just do 10 or 20 of the worst ones. And then we're, next year, I mean, I was told that we want to work on the blight. So I can just back off and just do the top 20 bad ones. and do it this year, then we work on next year.
In my opinion, it's not fair to the neighbors to have to do this. It's doable.
Okay.
And that's my view.
Okay, perfect.
That's not here at this hearing, but go ahead.
Yep, so that's, it's up to the council. If the council wants me, we can look at it until like August, right around August, I can bring them all.
Okay.
And we do them, we have several. This is by far, it's an anomaly, so. But there's a few that aren't too far behind us.
Hi, can I make a request if we're gonna start doing these in larger quantities? Not necessarily printing off a bunch of pictures, but can we find a way to use TVs?
Yes, I can put in TVs, and I can also email it to you too. I'll also have Michelle email to you the day of. So the one issue is that when we move to go to this event, we try to get the pictures the most recent as possible. So because this was another instance where he did some cleanup in the last 24 hours. So I almost have to wait till the day of. So, but yeah, we can put on the screens, we can do a little cleanup.
Motion to close this meeting, hearing.
So as we're going through and doing this, part of the kind of the duties of this, can you take some pictures that would be relatively generic of the work being done and post them on the City of Gilbert's police department Facebook page to let citizens know that this is something that we're taking action on?
I'll have to check, with law enforcement, if we take pictures of people's properties, there's some data protection, especially the body cam and stuff like that.
Right.
And that's in public. No, I'm not sure if the city can, but as law enforcement, if we're taking pictures or video of private property, there's some protections there.
I would like to send a message that we are starting this process.
We can make a message of that, the city property.
Get the image.
Yeah.
Like, hey, we're doing all the stuff.
Yeah, because citizens they've been complaining about this for years.
It's been a problem, every city's going through it, this is Gilbert's not, we take it to a couple spots, a couple other townships, like, it was bombed, a couple spots, so every city's dealing with this, we're not gonna be honest.
The motion closes. Second part of the hearing here.
I'll once again make a motion to go back to the normal council meeting.
Second,
I think we're closing it first.
Close the hearing.
We're closing the hearing.
Please make a motion to close the hearing.
Motion to close the hearing.
second that.
Moved by Councilor Wojcik, supported by Councilor Warren, at 7:52. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries.
Now I'll make the motion to go back to the normal council meeting.
Second that.
Motion by Councilor Wojcik, second by Councilor Warren to reconvene the regular council meeting on June 24th, 2025 at 7:53. Now we're back in order, it's a regular meeting. We're at number B on new business. Hasbargen resignation, police officer.
Have that chief teacher memorialize this for us, but he's taken a new position.
So, Officer Hasbargen was with us for 4.5 years. He took a position with the Itasca County Sheriff's Office, and he's resigned. So I asked that he accept his resignation, and that we're in the process of replacing Officer Hasbargen. So, and that was also a recommendation by the commission to accept his resignation. So.
Well, we thank him for the city council for his service here, and I think that accepting his resignation is ordered here by the council.
Who's the executive resignation? Is it Oscar? His first name?
Ken.
Ken.
Yeah, for a second.
Ken Hasbargen.
Moved by Councilor Wojcik, supported by
Second.
Councilor Skirvin to approve the resignation of Ken Hasbargen from the Gilbert Police Department. Officially, it was June 27th, 28th. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Virginia Elks Gambling Permit application for local bar. Warhouse, correct? Have Everything in order, Mike?
It is.
Well, application and permit should be granted.
I move to accept the permit.
One second.
Moved by Councilor Horn, supported by Councilor Skrillex to approve the gambling permit for the whorehouse from the Virginia Alps. Any more discussion on
I
that?
have a question.
Okay,
Why doesn't they do the city of Gilbert?
what's that?
Why don't they have the city of Gilbert do it? I mean, why are we giving money to Virginia so they can donate it to something when they could just have this permit to the city of Gilbert and fix the fences up at, Kennedy Park and it's for the youth of Gilbert or, I mean, we don't have to approve this to them. I mean, they pay 15% for anything that they get,
So
20% for anything else.
there is, in talking with Attorney Lindsay, there is, something that we can do and, several other cities have done it, via our ordinances. There's a modification to our ordinance that allows for the city to, regardless of who the charitable gambling, permit is issued to. So this would be the third one. Right now we have, the fire department has Stevo's, the Elks has most of the others, and now we have the Virginia Elks that manage that. But by ordinance, we can require that a certain percentage of the funds stay within it. It has to be a 501c3, and I think there's another category of charity that those funds would be designated to. And we can designate who that goes to. So we have to have an ordinance change before that happens.
Even if they're already giving somebody else?
Yes, it would be, and so when we change the ordinance, we would go through introducing it at one meeting, first reading, second reading, and approval, and then 30 days after the adoption of the ordinance, then it would be in effect for any charitable gambling that's in the district.
So when you brought that up, I mean, it's like, we also support these businesses in Gilbert, but
Yeah, it's one of the, it has been on my radar, I just have not gotten to those particular ordinances. If you'd like to kind of help go through some of those, I'd welcome your help.
you wanna get on that one right away?
It's one of those low hanging fruit types of things that we can use to.
There's been several people asking the question.
Yeah.
Everybody's kind of curious why we're handling it just the way we are. And we can put it on our agenda for next meeting and move towards doing something different with it. I would hope that
That same,
somebody can do some research to make sure we make the correct decision.
that same ordinance includes about 5 pages on legislating bingo, which is already governed by the state of Minnesota. So there's a lot in that section that just needs to change.
We can have the council direct Mike to tell the city attorney that's where we wanna go. If that's what we do.
Sure.
And I think Mike has, or Brian has some language from, I believe Chisholm does something similar. I think there was a couple of other towns that he has worked with that have done this in the past. I don't think he's not one.
I've seen it in other places.
Yeah.
So
So
it's usually not the Wild West, too, very directed.
very
the funds go.
So we just need to put that into an ordinance language and
Right now, all we need is council okay to have Mike.
No. You don't have that on the agenda. Go there, you just either approve the permit, you made a motion to approve the permit. We've had further discussion. The next time we have a meeting, we'll put it on the agenda.
Motion for nothing other than that, you guys can talk about it.
You don't have that on the agenda.
this was part of discussion on the motion to approve the permit.
Later on.
So,
Well, we already approved the permit, didn't
no, we have first and second and discussion. so.
we? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carries, permit granted to the whorehouse from the Virginia Alps. Start fence application. We talked about it earlier in, work session, we got issues with that, and Mike?
Well, I think the biggest issue is that it's, even if their neighbors give them permission, our ordinances are clear, you can put a fence all the way to the lot line, but you can't put it on your neighbor's yard. And that's really opening up a can of worms. In our discussion, we all thought that there was a lot of inherent risks with approving that. Change in neighbors, change in owners' future down the road. I mean, we have a good ordinance in place. We should probably follow it.
For the ordinance, I think council have to deny this, application, and that's to be reworked.
We have a motion to deny this application.
I make a motion.
I'll second the motion, deny.
Mayor stepped off the chair to make a motion. I assume the chair. Motion been seconded by Council Potenon. Do we have any discussion? No discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? None. Motion carries 5-0. I step back off the chair to give it back to the.
Thank you, Councilor. Number E, range cornice roofing water plant, improvements of $6,386. Mike?
We have a rubber roof up there where there's a steam failure and the water coming in. Even if we build a new water plant, we still need to protect our equipment and repair this roof. It's not very expensive, but it's a critical stage to get it taken care of. So I'm soliciting a bid from Range Cornice. It's not very expensive. I would advise that we move forward and do the repairs.
I agree, even though we're in the process of doing the water plant, could be a year or two down the road, and, sorry to say, it's gotta be done. Even though maybe the building may stay up a little bit longer, and maybe I don't know, we'll see, but if it's gonna be up a year, it's gotta be done.
You need a motion to accept the bid from each corner. To keep it up, to fill the water.
I'll second.
Moved by Councilor Dodson, supported by Councilor Skrillex to approve the Range Cornice roofing water plant bid. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, resolution 2025-10 CD.
We have a CD that we have been keeping aside to pay for the new dump truck that we got. We could probably just transfer the money from one account to the other. We paid out of the general fund. This needs to go into the general fund to cover the payment of the truck, which is nearly $250,000. Once we exhaust the funds needed to pay for the truck, there's really no reason to continue with that CD because there's not enough money there to do that. We do have another capital account, if you look at the numbers that I gave you earlier here, with $199,000 in there. So it's just, the plan was to do this, council approved it a long time ago, but to make sure everybody at the bank and everyone's happy, we do this by resolution on large financial decisions. It's really helpful when we go into an audit or any questions how we did this, and we did it by the book, so to speak. So I'm asking for a motion to allow me to close that and transfer the funds into our general fund to pay for the new truck.
Okay, all that needs to be said has been said, and go ahead, council, go ahead and approve this resolution, and unless it's approved, I will read it.
I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve.
Motion by Councilor Skrillex, supported by
Second.
Councilor Dodson to approve resolution 2025-10, resolution authorizing cash and CD for payment of dump truck. Any more discussion?
Do we get a warranty on this truck now, or is some question on that?
No, we cleared that up, we have a warranty.
Or if
The original contract, one of the original bills came through and said, no, as is, no warranty.
Yeah.
And I contacted the dealer and I said, that's not gonna fly. And he said, no, we did a mistake, we'll fix that.
So
It came through with the proper language.
is it like a 3-year contract and then 5-year on special?
I don't think it works like that probably.
It's not like a just regular.
It's not a Cadillac,
Yeah.
it's kind of a tail end warranty, but at least we're not buying it as is. If there's anything wrong with it,
Yeah,
we will be able to make it clean.
okay.
What is the status of it?
It's here.
It's here. It's in the garage.
You can put it in the parade.
It better be in the parade.
You would get it.
I'll say, I put it in the parade.
Is it orange and black?
It happens to be orange.
Seriously, this is what, 2.5
I think it
years?
took a couple of years, but
Yeah.
it's not abnormal at this point in time. We could have bought a used one and had it right away. So, you know, it is what it is, but you know, it should last them a long time. The one they've had for years, so.
All in favor, say aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carries 5-0. Actually, I'm gonna do a roll call. Councilor Boston,
Yes.
Councilor Sturman,
Yes.
Councilor Joshua,
Yes.
Councilor Horn,
Yes.
Mayor Buska, yes. 5-0. All right, I'm gonna read this out loud. Resolution 2025-10, resolution authorizing cashing in a CD for payment of dump truck. Whereas the city council of City of Gilbert has a CD for purchase of a new city dump truck. Whereas resolution 2025-10 authorizes the city clerk to transfer the funds of $255,020.47 into the general fund for the payment of the truck. Now therefore it be resolved by the city council of the city of Gilbert, county of St. Louis, state of Minnesota, that the Gilbert City Council approves cashing in the CD and empowers the city clerk to take whatever action is necessary to effectuate the closing of this transaction. Moved by Councilor Skirvik, I believe, seconded by Councilor Vrtajnik, if I remember right. All in favor, Councilor Bronson, Councilor Skirvik, Councilor Horn, Councilor Vrtajnik, and Mayor Buska. Nays, none, absent, none. Adopted by the City Council of Gilbert on June 24th, 2025. All right. Approval of deputy clerk position, right?
We upgraded our job description for this position quite some time ago, and the preliminary language is redlined and provided to the personnel committee. We just have this is the final copy, and we just want to make sure we dot all our i's and cross all our t's, so when we open that position, we don't end up having any difficulty with any party who may not like the way it was done and says, oh my God, that's not an approved job description. It is, and we have looked at it, and we are all on the same page. We would like to get a formal approval from the council this evening.
You're asking for approval of council to approve this language or this contract, and then not go out for it, or just approve this?
We've already approved posting. I waited because I passed this by the attorney, and I said to her, should we just post it, or should we formally approve, just formally approve it? Just, be cautious.
So that part is done, we just need to approve this to be posted.
Correct. No, we need to approve the job description.
Okay. I'm okay with the job description.
I move to approve the job description of the deputy clerk accountant position.
Second.
Motion by Councilor Horn, supported by Councilor Vrtajnik to approve the job description of the deputy clerk accountant position. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. New business number H. Again, I've spoken with Mayor of Everett, Mr. Rowan, Supervisor of Vale, Mr. Tony Tamero, and come to a consensus between us three to bring it back to our councils, to bring it, to authorize our city fire departments and a couple representatives from each body, governing body, to meet and revisit the survey and agreement between the three communities, townships of the fire departments that was made about 2-3 years ago, 2018, and not adopted, and maybe revisit that and come to an agreement of an adoption. So, but we're gonna go through the process again and of each governing body authorize the fire departments with some governing representatives in the meetings to resume those talks and then quickly or shortly after, come back to the council with a recommendation of adoption or not. Of combining, us three fire departments, Vale, Elbert, and Gilbert into one district fire department. And then I'm just gonna go up to the chair and make that motion to allow the fire department's representatives and some governing body, like the council Gilbert, will attend. And, Mike and city clerk will attend too, okay? Then those meetings that the fire department schedule, when they get together. And we can come back before budget time or so we know something by in the fall here.
Mayor step out the chair once again to make a motion to, we have support for that motion,
I'll second what he said.
which means that the mayor and Councilor Skrillex, along with the city clerk, will attend meetings to discuss that. Do we have any discussion on that? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor? Aye. Motion carries 5-0.
All right, thank you. Nothing else on miscellaneous? Or additions are all done?
Correct.
Motion to adjourn is in order.
I move to adjourn the meeting.
Moved by Councilor Sturley, supported by
Second.
Councilor Topsy. To adjourn the meeting at 8:11. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion carries. Good night.